Aside from the pacing of the film being a little off, I couldn't tell if it was running too fast or it was too slow. I don't know, there was just something off about it, the pacing of the movie and going from scene to scene. And also Darcy's jacket, which it was this long leather coat that every time he moved, it made this creasing noise, like when you're sitting in a leather chair and you move and it sounds like you farted. It was that. But aside from those two critiques, I thoroughly enjoyed Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I thought it was a very fun movie, and I thought it stayed true to the themes of Pride and Prejudice. However, I've yet to actually read Pride and Prejudice, or for that matter, Pride and Prejudice and Zombie. So when I was watching the film, I was very distracted because, like I said, I haven't read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, but I've seen the movie with Keira Knightley, and I know the story from that, so I was kind of watching it and comparing the story to Pride and Prejudice and Zombies to the story of Pride and Prejudice and seeing where they changed things and how they did, because I was really interested, because there's such a vast difference between just the style of Pride and Prejudice and then adding that style with zombies and the zombie apocalypse. It was just really interesting, so I was curious as to where the changes came in. So when I got home, I refreshed myself on the story of Pride and Prejudice, and I also looked up the story for the book Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and actually found there were a few big differences from the Pride and Prejudice and Zombie book to the Pride and Prejudice and Zombie movie. So therefore, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, the movie, was actually an adaptation of an adaptation. And I thought this was really interesting. It kind of brings up the difficulty in adapting something from one medium to another, or adapting something to freshen it up and bring it forward to a new age of viewers or readers or fans. This is risky because fans are so divided in what we want. Two groups of fans among many others. There's one group that whenever they watch an adaptation, a movie or a TV show of their favorite books, they're very dedicated to the source material, and they want 100%, they want the movie or the show to be exactly what they read in the book. They don't want any changes, they want exactly what they read to be what they see on TV or film. Then there are fans who are like me, that I'm okay with changes to the source material as long as what I'm seeing is a good movie, is a good story. As long as I'm entertained by it, and it stays true to the themes and ideas of the original source material, but it overall tells its own thing, it does its own story. As long as it's a good story that I'm very interested in, I'm fine with changes. Two other adaptations come to mind when talking about this, both actually having to do with zombies. The first one being The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead takes kind of a skeleton from the comics and makes its own thing into a TV series. It doesn't strictly follow the order that the books go in. It tells its own story with its own characters. There are a lot of new characters. There are also a lot of characters from the books that they've heavily adapted from and kind of made these completely new characters out of those characters. They're still doing the same themes and the same ideas from the books, and they're telling their own story. A lot of moments from the books make it into the show, which I think are really cool when you can look at the panels from the comic and compare them to the TV show for certain scenes, and it's really cool to see how they line up, but that only happens every now and then. They're telling their own story, and it's a good story, and I think that's why an adaptation like The Walking Dead works so well. The other example is Game of Thrones, and this, up until now, I thought they were doing a very good job of adapting it from the books to a TV show. They were following the order of the books, they were doing basically the same big moments from the books, they were telling the book story from the books and putting it into the TV show. Up until recently, where they took a drastic course change and started kind of telling their own story. I would have been fine with this change, even though it was very abrupt and disconcerting. But if that change included them telling a good story, I would have ultimately been fine with it, but I don't think the new story that they're starting to tell is very good. Hopefully in the next season that changes, whether they decide to go back to sticking as close to the books as they can, or if they decide to go forward with their own story, it's their decision. I just hope that whatever they do show is a good story. But adaptation is a really risky thing. There are a lot of issues with it, but I feel that adaptation is so important for literature and books and movies to kind of make these already established pieces of work new again. It makes them a lot more attainable and digestible for newer audiences. Personally, like I said, I've yet to read Pride and Prejudice or Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I own both. And I wanted to read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, but I didn't read it because I wanted to read Pride and Prejudice first, because I felt that for me to really fully appreciate the book and even the movie, I'm sure that once I read the books in their completion and go back and watch the movie, I'll appreciate it even more. But I felt I needed that understanding of the original source material to really appreciate the adaptations of adding zombies to Pride and Prejudice. But because I enjoyed the movie so much, I'm really motivated to, next time I have a break from classes and I don't have a stack of required reading, I can go back and read Pride and Prejudice and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and then watch Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and say Pride and Prejudice and Zombies 10 times fast. It's really difficult. But I think adaptations are really important because it takes established pieces of work and it makes them fresh again. What do you think of the pros and cons of adaptation? And let me know what you think about the movie Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Let me know in the comments and share the video so others can join in the conversation. Follow me on all the internets and subscribe to my channel so we can geek out some more. Thanks for watching and have fun. So Captain America, Thor, Hulk.